I caught my wife rehearsing her goodbye in the mirror, like an actress. When she walked out with her suitcase, I gave her an ultimatum that ended everything. Then I found a red shoebox and discovered my daughter had been protecting me from the truth for months. My name is Daniel Foster. I'm 44, and I work as an IT project manager for a tech company in Austin. I've got a 14-year-old daughter, Sophie, from my first marriage. That ended 7 years ago with Linda. Nothing dramatic, we just grew apart. Sophie lives with me most of the time, and she's a good kid. 3 years ago, I married Melissa. She was 25 then, working as a marketing coordinator downtown. We had our struggles. The biggest one was kids. I wanted another child. Sophie wanted a sibling. But Melissa made it clear she never wanted kids. Said she'd already been down that road once. I found out later she'd had a son when she was 19. Left him with the father and walked away. She told me this 6 months into our marriage, like abandoning your own child was just a life choice. I tried to understand. Maybe I tried too hard. Thursday afternoon, I came home early from a client meeting. Walked through the front door around 3, expecting an empty house. Instead, I heard Melissa's voice from the hallway. Not on a call. Talking to herself. I set my laptop bag down quiet and listened. I need space, she said to her reflection in the hallway mirror, coat halfway on. You make me feel trapped, Daniel. I need to feel alive again. She paused, adjusted her hair, then smiled. Actually smiled. Then she whispered, coaching herself, say it calm. Say it like you mean it. Don't let him see you're nervous. I stood there, frozen. She ran through it again. Same words. Same pause. Same rehearsed smile. You don't rehearse goodbye unless you've already gone. That hit me like a hammer. This wasn't spur of the moment. She'd been planning this, scripting it, and I was just the audience, waiting for a show I didn't know was happening. I backed up slow, walked outside of my car, and sat there for 10 minutes. Hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. Then I drove around the block twice, came back, and walked in like I just arrived. Mel, I'm home. I called out. She came down the stairs with a small suitcase. The carry-on. The one that says you're not going far, but you're definitely going. Hey, babe, she said, avoiding my eyes. I'm heading to Rachel's for the night. Her sister's visiting from Dallas. Girl time, you know. Rachel. Her go-to excuse. Funny how Rachel had become the alibi for every late night, every weekend away. I nodded slowly. She was good. If I hadn't heard the rehearsal, I might have believed her. But I had heard it, and now I couldn't unsee it. I watched Melissa zip up her suitcase, moving with practiced efficiency. She'd done this before, I realized. Maybe not physically leaving, but mentally. She'd been gone for a while. So Rachel's sister is in town. I asked, keeping my voice level. Yeah, from Dallas. They haven't seen each other in months. She glanced at her phone, smiled at something on the screen, then quickly locked it. I should get going. Traffic, you know. I stood up from the couch, walked over to where she stood by the door. She tensed just slightly, like she was bracing for something. Melissa, look at me. She did, but her eyes didn't quite meet mine. They focused somewhere around my shoulder. I heard you, I said quietly. In the hallway. Practicing your goodbye speech. Her face went pale. The suitcase handle slipped from her fingers. Daniel, I don't know what you think you heard, but I heard exactly what you said. I interrupted, my voice steady but cold. You were rehearsing. I need space. You make me feel trapped. You were coaching yourself to stay calm, to not let me see you're nervous. She opened her mouth, closed it. Her hand reached for the wall like she needed support. It's not what you think, she finally said, but her voice had no conviction. Then what is it? She looked down at her suitcase, at the floor, anywhere but at me. I just need some time. We've been fighting about the baby thing, and I just need to think. Stop. I held up my hand. Don't insult me with another lie. If you need to go, then go. But let's be honest about what's happening here. Her jaw tightened. You're being dramatic. Am I? I stepped closer. You packed a bag. You rehearsed your exit. You've got someone waiting for you, don't you? Is it Rachel's place you're really going to? Yes. God, Daniel, you're being paranoid. Show me your phone then. Silence. The kind that speaks louder than any confession. She picked up her suitcase again, straightened her shoulders. I don't have to prove anything to you. I'm going to Rachel's, and I'll be back tomorrow. No. The word came out harder than I intended. You won't. She blinked. What? I walked past her and opened the front door wide. Held it. The evening air rushed in, cool and sharp. All right, go ahead, I said, looking her straight in the eye. But the moment you step out that door, our marriage is over. And don't ever think about coming back. Her face shifted through shock, anger, then something like panic. You can't be serious. I'm just going to a friend's house. We both know that's not true, I said. And honestly, I'm done pretending. You want out. Here's your out. But you don't get to come back when it doesn't work out. You don't get to keep me as your safety net. Daniel. Make your choice, Melissa. She stood there, suitcase in hand, staring at the open door like it had suddenly become a portal to another dimension. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Once. Twice. She pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Zach arriving in 3 minutes. I saw the name. Saw everything I needed to know. She looked at me one last time, searching my face for any sign I'd break, that I'd beg her to stay. I didn't. She walked out. Down the steps. Didn't look back. I closed the door behind her and turned the lock. I didn't move from that door for a solid minute. Just stood there, hands still on the deadbolt, listening to the silence settle around me like dust. The house felt different already. Lighter, maybe, or emptier. Hard to tell which. Sophie wouldn't be home for another 3 hours. Basketball practice ran until 6. Then Linda would drop her off. I had time to think, to process, to figure out what the hell I was going to tell my daughter. Instead, I went upstairs and started packing Melissa's things. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. Just logic. She'd made her choice, and I'd meant what I said. She wasn't coming back. So her stuff needed to go. Simple as that. I pulled boxes from the garage, the same ones we'd used when she moved in 3 years ago. Started with the bedroom. Her clothes, her shoes, that collection of candles she never burned but insisted on keeping. I worked methodically, folding everything neat, like I was preparing a shipment for a client. No emotion, just task completion. In the back of her closet, I found something that stopped me cold. A shoebox. Red, worn at the edges, tucked behind her winter boots. I opened it. Inside were things that didn't belong to us. A matchbook from a steakhouse I'd never been to. A guitar pick. A man's watch, expensive looking. A crumpled cocktail napkin with writing on it. Thursday. Same place. R. Not Z for Zach. R for someone else. I sat on the floor, staring at these trophies. Because that's what they were. Souvenirs from nights I wasn't part of. From lies she told while kissing me goodnight. My phone buzzed. Melissa calling. I let it ring. Once. Twice. 6 times before it went to voicemail. She called again. I watched my screen light up, watched her name flash, and felt absolutely nothing. Just a cold, clear understanding that the woman I'd married had never really existed. I'd been in love with a performance. I tossed the shoebox in the trash. Went back to packing. By the time Sophie came home, I had 4 boxes sealed and stacked by the garage door. I'd ordered pizza, set the table, and practiced my own speech. The one I'd have to give my daughter about why her stepmother wasn't coming back. Sophie walked in, gym bag over her shoulder, face flushed from practice. Hey, Dad. Where's Melissa? Kitchen, kiddo. We need to talk. Sophie sat across from me at the kitchen table, pizza slice untouched on her plate. She'd been quiet since I told her Melissa had left. Not crying, just processing. My daughter had her mother's emotional intelligence, thank God. So she's just gone. Sophie finally asked. Yeah, she's gone. Because you guys fought about having a baby? I nodded. That was part of it. But it's more complicated than that, sophomore. Did she cheat on you? The directness of the question caught me off guard. I looked at my 14-year-old daughter, who was watching me with eyes far too knowing for her age. What makes you ask that? Sophie shrugged, picked at her pizza crust. I'm not stupid, Dad. I've seen her texting at weird hours, smiling at her phone, then hiding it when I walked in. And last month when you were at that conference in Dallas, some guy dropped her off at like 2 in the morning. I saw from my window. My blood went cold. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to be the reason you got divorced again, Sophie said quietly. I already feel like I ruined things with you and Mom. Hey, I reached across the table, took her hand. You didn't ruin anything with your mother and me. We grew apart. That's it. And this thing with Melissa? That's on her, not you. You understand me. Sophie nodded, but her eyes were wet. Did you love her? She asked. I thought I did. But I think I loved who I wanted her to be, not who she actually was. That's sad. Yeah, it is. We sat there for a while, just the 2 of us. Then Sophie said something that hit me harder than anything else that day. I'm kind of relieved, actually. I looked up. What? She was never really nice to me when you weren't around, Sophie admitted. Not mean, just cold. Like I was furniture. And she'd make these comments about how I was getting heavy, or my hair looked messy. Little things. I didn't want to tell you because you seemed happy. I felt sick. My daughter had been enduring casual cruelty in her own home because she didn't want to burden me. Sophie, I am so sorry. It's okay, Dad. It's over now. She took a bite of pizza, then said with her mouth half full, besides, now we can get a dog. Despite everything, I laughed. A dog. She hated dogs. Said they were too messy. But you love dogs. I love dogs. So now we can get one, right? Yeah, I said, feeling something loosen in my chest. Yeah, we can get a dog. That night, after Sophie went to bed, my phone lit up again. Not Melissa this time. An unknown number. The text read, "We need to talk. About your wife. Ryan Pierce." I stared at the text from Ryan Pierce for a solid 5 minutes before responding. "We need to talk. About your wife." The audacity of it. The sheer nerve of the man who'd been sleeping with Melissa to reach out to me, like we were colleagues needing to discuss a project. I typed back, "Nothing to talk about." She made her choice. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, "You don't understand. Can we meet? Tomorrow. Java House on 6th Street. Noon." Every instinct told me to block his number and move on. But curiosity won. Or maybe it was the need to look this man in the eye and understand what Melissa saw in him that she couldn't find in me. Fine. Noon. I hit send and immediately regretted it. The next morning, I dropped Sophie at school and headed to my parents' place in Round Rock. If anyone could help me make sense of this mess, it was them. Dad answered the door in his usual flannel shirt and work boots, despite being retired for 3 years. "Daniel, what are you doing here on a Friday?" Melissa left. Dad's face hardened. He stepped aside, called over his shoulder, "Carol, Daniel's here. Put coffee on." Mom appeared from the kitchen, took one look at me, and pulled me into a hug. "Oh, honey." We sat at their kitchen table, the same one I'd eaten breakfast at every morning growing up. I told them everything. The rehearsal, the ultimatum, the shoebox of secrets. Dad listened without interrupting, jaw tight. When I finished, he said, "You did the right thing. A man doesn't let himself be disrespected in his own home." "But Sophie's tough," Mom said gently. "And she's got you. That's what matters. That girl needs to see her father stand up for himself. It's a lesson she'll carry forever." "I'm meeting the guy today," I admitted. "The one she's been seeing." Dad raised an eyebrow. "What?" "I don't know. I need to understand, I guess." "No, son. You need closure. There's a difference." Dad leaned forward. "Don't let him make excuses. Don't let him play victim. You go in there, you look him in the eye, and you make sure he knows exactly what he helped destroy." At noon, I walked into Java House. Spotted Ryan Pierce immediately. Mid-30s, wearing an expensive suit, confident smile. He stood when he saw me, extended his hand. I didn't take it. "Let's get this over with," I said, sitting across from him. Ryan pulled his hand back, sat down. "Look, I know this is awkward. You don't know anything about what this is." He had the decency to look uncomfortable. I wanted to explain. "There's nothing to explain. You slept with my wife. She left. End of story." "It's not that simple," Ryan said. "Melissa and we have something real." I actually laughed. "Real? You think sneaking around, lying, destroying a family is real?" "She was unhappy," he said, defensive now. "You pushed her to have kids she didn't want. You made her feel trapped. And you made her feel what? Special." "Understood." I leaned forward. "Let me tell you what you actually did. You helped a woman abandon her responsibilities. Again, she already walked away from one kid. Now she's walked away from mine. But sure, tell yourself it's love." Ryan's face tightened. "You don't understand her." "I understand her perfectly now. And here's what you need to understand. She'll do it to you too. When things get hard, when you want something she doesn't, she'll rehearse her goodbye and find someone new to run to." I stood up. "Enjoy your prize, Ryan. You earned her." After meeting Ryan, I drove. Not home, not to work. I drove 2 hours northwest to our cabin in the hill country. The place Melissa and I had bought together, renovated together, the place she'd used to betray me. I needed to see it, needed to reclaim it, or understand why I couldn't. The gravel driveway crunched under my tires as I pulled up. Everything looked the same. The porch swing I'd installed. The flower boxes Melissa had painted. The whole place felt frozen in time, like a postcard of a life that never really existed. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Her perfume still lingered in the air, faint but unmistakable. I stood in the doorway of the small living room and let my eyes adjust. That's when I saw them. 2 wine glasses on the coffee table, one with lipstick on the rim. Her shade. The bottle next to them, half empty. In the kitchen, takeout containers from Giuseppe's, the Italian place in Fredericksburg we used to love. The place where I'd proposed to her 3 years ago. They'd ordered from there, eaten our food in our cabin. I checked the trash. Found a receipt dated 2 weeks ago. Service for 2. Charged to a card I didn't recognize. The bedroom made it worse. The bed was unmade. A man's watch on the nightstand. Expensive, silver, with initials engraved on the back. R.P. Ryan Pierce had been here. In our bed. In a place I'd built with my own hands, every weekend for 6 months. I sat on the edge of that bed, holding that watch, and felt something break inside me. Not my heart. That had already broken. This was deeper. This was the final shattering of the illusion that any of it had been real. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Mom called. Asked about Melissa. I told her everything. She wants to talk to you. Great. Now Linda was involved. I pocketed Ryan's watch, walked through the cabin one last time, and started cleaning. Not cleaning up after them. Cleaning them out. I stripped the bed, threw the sheets in the trash, dumped the wine, threw away the glasses, took down every picture of Melissa from the walls. By the time I finished, the sun was setting. The cabin looked bare but clean. Empty but mine again. I locked up and drove back to Austin, Ryan's watch still in my pocket. Not because I wanted it, because I wanted him to know I'd been there, that I'd seen everything, and that I wasn't the fool he and Melissa thought I was. When I got home, Linda's car was in my driveway. Linda was sitting on my porch steps when I pulled into the driveway, still wearing her scrubs from the hospital. She stood as I got out of the car, arms crossed. That look on her face I remembered from our marriage. The one that meant she had opinions and wasn't leaving until she shared them. Linda, didn't expect you. Sophie called me in tears, she said. Told me everything. About Melissa leaving. About how that woman treated her when you weren't around. I unlocked the front door, gestured her inside. Coffee. Sure. We sat at the kitchen table, the same ritual we'd done 1,000 times when we were married. Strange how some habits never die, even after the relationship does. I'm sorry, Linda said after a long silence. About Melissa. I know you cared about her. Thought I did. Turns out I was in love with someone who didn't exist. Linda nodded, took a sip of coffee. Sophie wants to come stay with me for a few days. Give you time to process. But honestly, Daniel, I think she needs to be here. With you. She needs to see that you're okay. That this isn't going to destroy you like. She stopped herself. Like our divorce almost did. Yeah. I rubbed my face, suddenly exhausted. I'm not that guy anymore, Linda. I'm not falling apart. I'm angry, yeah. But I'm also clear. For the first time in 3 years, I can see exactly who Melissa was. And I'm glad she's gone. Good, Linda said firmly. Because Sophie needs that strength right now. That girl has been protecting you for months, carrying secrets that weren't hers to carry. She needs to know she doesn't have to be the adult anymore. I talked to her, told her none of this was her fault. And you need to keep telling her. Every day if you have to. Linda paused. There's something else. Sophie mentioned Melissa had a son, that she walked away from him. Yeah, when he was 2. Linda's face hardened. And you married her anyway. I thought people could change. I thought maybe she'd been young and scared. Daniel, a mother doesn't abandon her child. Not unless there's something fundamentally broken inside her. Linda leaned forward. I'm not trying to judge her choices. God knows I made plenty of mistakes in our marriage. But you need to understand something. Sophie saw what that woman really was. And it scared her. She's been waiting for Melissa to leave you the same way she left that little boy. The weight of that hit me hard. My daughter had been living with the fear that her stepmother would vanish, and she'd have to watch me break. I won't let Sophie down, I said quietly. Not again. You never let her down the first time, Linda said. You and I didn't work out. That happens. But you've always been a good father. Don't forget that. After Linda left, I found Sophie in her room, headphones on, pretending to do homework. I knocked on the doorframe. She pulled off her headphones. Is Mom mad? No. She's worried about you. We both are. I'm fine, Dad. Sophie, I need you to hear me. Really hear me. You don't have to protect me. You don't have to hide things from me because you're scared I'll fall apart. I'm the parent. That's my job. Her eyes filled with tears. But you seemed so happy with her. And I didn't want to be the reason it ended. I sat on the edge of her bed. You weren't. She was. And honestly, I'm relieved it's over. Because now I don't have to pretend anymore. And neither do you. Sophie threw her arms around me. And we stayed like that for a long time. When she finally pulled back, she said, "Can we really get a dog?" I laughed. "Yeah, kiddo. We really can." "And Dad, can we go to the cabin this weekend? Just us. I want to make new memories there." "Absolutely." Saturday morning, Sophie and I drove to the animal shelter. By afternoon, we brought home a golden retriever mix named Bailey. Sophie was in love. So was I, honestly. The dog filled the house with energy, with life, with something other than the ghost of Melissa. That evening, while Sophie played with Bailey in the backyard, I found an envelope that had been slipped under my front door. No stamp. Hand-delivered. Inside was a letter. Sophie's handwriting. My hand shook as I read it. "Dear Melissa, I don't know if you'll ever read this. Dad probably won't give it to you. But I need to write it anyway, because I've been holding this in for too long. I tried really hard to like you. When Dad married you, I thought maybe I'd finally have a real family again. But you never wanted me there, did you? You were nice when Dad was around, but the rest of the time, you looked at me like I was something you had to tolerate. You told me I was getting chubby. You said my laugh was annoying. You rolled your eyes when I tried to show you things I was proud of. And when I asked if you want to come to my basketball games, you said you'd rather do literally anything else. I didn't tell Dad because I didn't want to ruin his happiness. But you ruined it yourself. And I'm glad you're gone. I hope you know that Dad deserves better. And I hope whoever you left him for realizes what kind of person you really are. The kind who practices goodbyes and mirrors. The kind who abandons people. You did it to your own son. You did it to my dad. And someday, you'll do it to whoever you're with now. I just wanted you to know that I see you. And I'm not sad you're gone. I'm relieved. Sophie." I sat there with that letter in my hands, torn between pride and heartbreak. My daughter had more courage than most adults I knew. She'd articulated everything I'd been feeling, but couldn't quite put into words. I walked outside, found Sophie throwing a ball for Bailey. "Sophie." She turned, saw the letter in my hand, and her face went pale. I wasn't going to send it. I just needed to write it. "It's powerful," I said. "Honest. True. Everything in here is exactly right. You're not mad." "Mad. I'm proud of you. You said what needed to be said." I held up the letter. "But I'm not giving this to her. You know why?" "Why?" "Because she doesn't deserve your words. She doesn't deserve to know how strong and brave you are. That's ours, not hers." Sophie nodded, relieved. "So what do we do with it?" "We burn it. Tonight. At the fire pit. Let all go." That night, we built a fire in the backyard. Sophie held the letter over the flames, hesitated for just a moment, then let it drop. We watched it curl and blacken and disappear into ash. "Feel better?" I asked. "Yeah, actually I do." We sat there for a while, Bailey curled up between us, watching the fire burn down to embers. Then Sophie said, "Dad, I'm really glad you didn't let her come back." "Me too, kiddo. Me too." 3 weeks after Melissa left, she showed up at my office. Unannounced. My assistant buzzed me, voice uncertain. "Mr. Foster, your wife is here." "Well, she says she needs to speak with you." I should have said no. Should have had security escort her out. But part of me needed this final conversation. Needed to close the book completely. Sent her in. Melissa walked into my office wearing the blue dress I'd always liked. Hair perfect. Makeup carefully applied. She looked like she was going to a job interview. Which in a way she was. Interviewing to get her old life back. "Daniel, thank you for seeing me." I didn't stand. Didn't offer her a seat. Just looked at her and waited. She sat anyway, across from my desk. I made a terrible mistake. "Ryan and I, it's over. He wasn't who I thought he was. Let me guess. He got tired of your act." Her face tightened. It wasn't an act. I was confused. The pressure about having another baby. It was too much. "Stop." I held up my hand. "Don't blame me for your choices. I asked for a child. You chose to cheat. Those aren't connected." "I want to come home," she said, and I heard the desperation creeping into her voice. "We can go to counseling. Start over. I'll even consider having a baby." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You'll consider it? Like you're doing me a favor." "That's not what I meant." "Melissa." You rehearsed leaving me. You took your boyfriend to our cabin. You mocked me on camera. You treated my daughter like garbage when I wasn't around. And now you want to come back because your backup plan didn't work out. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I leaned forward. But here's what you need to understand. I don't want you back. Not now. Not ever. You did me a favor by leaving. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean it. For the first time in 3 years, I can breathe. Sophie can be herself without walking on eggshells. We got a dog. We're planning a trip to Colorado this summer. We're building a life that doesn't include you. Daniel, please. The divorce papers are ready. My lawyer will send them this week. Sign them. Move on. Find someone else to manipulate. She stood, anger replacing the fake tears. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this. The only mistake I made was marrying you in the first place. But I'm fixing that now. She stared at me for a long moment, searching for any crack in my resolve. Found none. Fine, she said coldly. Keep your boring little life. Keep pretending you're happy. But we both know you'll never find anyone better than me. I already did. Her name's Sophie. She's 14, and she's got more integrity in her little finger than you have in your entire body. Melissa's face twisted with rage. She grabbed her purse, headed for the door. Stopped. For what it's worth, I did love you. At the beginning. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of stability. You loved having someone who'd take care of you. But you never loved me. Because if you had, you wouldn't have been able to rehearse leaving me like you were preparing for a theater audition. She walked out without another word. I watched through my office window as she crossed the parking lot, got into a car I didn't recognize, drove away. My assistant buzzed again. Mr. Foster, your 2 o'clock is here. The Thompson account. Give me 5 minutes. I sat there, breathing, letting the moment settle. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Sophie. Melissa came by. I sent her away. Want pizza for dinner? Her response came immediately. Yes. Can Bailey have a piece? 1 piece. No more. Deal. Love you, Dad. Love you too, kiddo. For months later, Sophie and I were at the cabin. Not the hill country cabin, the one tainted with Melissa's betrayal. I'd sold that place the month after she left. Took a small loss, but didn't care. Used the money as a down payment on a new place in Colorado, near Estes Park. Smaller, simpler, but ours. We spent the long weekend hiking with Bailey, grilling on the porch, playing cards by the fireplace. Linda came up for a day with her boyfriend, Tom. A decent guy, ex-military, treated Sophie well. I was happy for her. Saturday morning, Sophie and I were fishing in the creek behind the cabin when she said, Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think you'll ever get married again? I thought about it, watching my line drift in the current. Maybe. Someday. If I meet the right person. Someone who actually wants to be part of our family, not just play the role. What about that woman from your office? Jessica? She's nice. And she always asks about me. I smiled. Jessica was the new project coordinator. Mid-40s, divorced, 2 kids of her own. We got in coffee a few times. Nothing serious yet, but there was potential. Real potential. Not the manufactured kind I'd had with Melissa. She is nice. But we're taking it slow. Making sure it's real before we complicate things. That's smart. Sophie reeled in her line, checked her bait. I just want you to be happy, Dad. Like, really happy. Not pretend happy like you were with Melissa. Was it that obvious? To me it was. You smiled less. Laughed less. You were always trying to make her happy, but she never tried to make you happy back. The wisdom of teenagers. Sometimes they see things clearer than adults ever could. I'm happy now, I said. Right here. With you. With Bailey. With this new start. That's enough. Good. She cast her line again. But if you do start dating Jessica for real, can I meet her first? Before it gets serious? I want to make sure she's actually nice, and not just pretending. Deal. You're my first line of defense. And Bailey's the second line. Exactly. That afternoon, Jessica texted me. We've been talking more lately, sharing stories about single parenthood, bad dates, lessons learned for failed marriages. She sent a photo of her kids at a soccer game with a message. Jake scored twice. Emma spent the whole game, looking for 4-leaf clovers. Parenthood is weird. I showed Sophie. She grinned. Her kids sound fun. They are. You like them. Can we invite them up here sometime? Like all of us. You sure you're ready for that? Sophie looked at me seriously. Dad, I'm ready for you to be happy again. And if that means sharing our cabin and our dog with some new people, then yeah, I'm ready. I pulled her into a hug. What did you get so wise? I learned from the best. We spent the rest of the weekend making plans. Not big ones. Not life-changing ones. Just small steps toward whatever came next. Sophie started sophomore year in the fall. We'd take Bailey to training classes. Maybe invite Jessica and her kids for a barbecue. On our last night at the cabin, we built a fire outside. Sophie roasted marshmallows while Bailey chased moths in the darkness. The stars were incredible, millions of them scattered across the Colorado sky. Dad, Sophie said quietly, thanks for not letting her come back. You don't have to thank me for that. I know, but I want to. You stood up for us. For our family. That matters. I looked at my daughter, 15 now, growing into an incredible young woman. Strong, compassionate, honest. Everything Melissa had never been. You know what I learned from all this? I said, family isn't just about who you marry. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you when things get hard, and who adopts goofy dogs and burns angry letters, Sophie added with a grin. Exactly. We sat there until the fire burned down to embers, talking about everything and nothing. And for the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. Not because I'd found new love, not because I'd gotten revenge, but because I'd found myself again. And I'd protected my daughter from someone who would have slowly poisoned both our lives. That was enough. That was everything.